I declare the meeting open at 6 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on Wadjug Noongar Budja, and I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past and present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo, and I invite you to bow your head in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us all in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all, and guide all of the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Amen. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online, with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Attendances are as per the record, and item 2, apologies and leaves of absence. We have Councillor Parker from the 10th of September to the 19th of October on a leave of absence, and Councillor Parker, Councillor Wright on a leave of absence, and Councillor Parker, an apology. Item 3, public question time. The following general rules apply to public question and statement time. Public questions and statements should only relate to the business of the local government and should not be a personal statement or opinion. Only questions relating to matters affecting the local government will be considered at a council meeting, and only questions that relate to the purpose of the meeting will be considered at a special council meeting. Questions may be taken on notice and responded to after the meeting. Questions may not be directed at specific council members or a city employee. Questions are not to be framed in such a way as to reflect adversely on a particular council member or a city employee. First priority will be given to persons who are asking questions relating to items on the current meeting council agenda, and second priority given to public statements. Only public statements regarding items on the council agenda under consideration will be heard. Each person seeking to ask questions or make a statement may address the council for a maximum of 3 minutes each. We have some questions that we receive about election issues, and because we are in a caretaker period, the Director of Assets will read aloud the answers to those questions. So that's PQ01-1023 from the City of Wanneroo Residents and Ratepayers Association Incorporated, and PQ02-1023, Mr Gregory Harrison. Mr Singh, would you like to read those questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The first question is, how many complaints has the city received this financial year so far from residents about the placement of candidate signs? The response provided by Acting Director, Community and Places, there have been 15 complaints received regarding election signs. Question number 2, how many complaints did the city receive last financial year, 2021-2022, about the placement of candidate signs? The response provided by Acting Director, Community and Places, there were 29 complaints received regarding election signs in 2021-2022. Question number 3, in the last 3 years, have any candidates or successful elected members been fined for not following the city rules on signage? Who was fined and how much were they fined? The response provided by Acting Director, Community and Places, in the past 3 years, there have not been any candidates or council members fined for contravening the Signs Local Law 1999. Question number 4, how many signs have the city rangers removed this financial year? Where are the signs now and were candidates fined? If not, why not? Response provided by Acting Director, Community and Place, rangers have impounded 29 election signs to date. They are held at the impound yard at the Ashby Operations Centre. Candidates are being infringed. Question number 5, why is the City of Wanneroo Mayor permitted to openly show bias to candidates and promote them to city voters? Why aren't all candidates promoted by Mayor Aitken? Response provided by Acting Director, Corporate Strategy and Performance. The city administration remains impartial to electoral matters. If a candidate chooses to support another candidate, then that is a personal matter and administration is not involved. Question number 6. How much is budgeted by the city to manage signs during elections? It is clear that City of Wanneroo staff, including rangers, have to put in additional work managing the signs, including moving, destroying, and making our public space safe. Response provided by Acting Director, Community and Place. No additional money is budgeted. The management of election signs is included within the rangers' operational duties for the election period. Number 7. Does mayoral candidate have a City of Wanneroo CCTV facing his property? If so, how much did this cost? Response provided by Acting Director, Community in Place. There are no City of Wanneroo CCTV cameras facing mayoral candidate properties. Public question number 2, number 10/23. Mayor, do you want me to read that as well?
You might as well.
Mr. G. Harrison, Wanneroo. Traffic counter for Cape on Street, Wanneroo. My question is, my street is currently overloaded during peak hours of the day with cars banking up to 1 kilometer from the west. I have reported the problem over the past 4 years and traffic is getting heavier. Joining Franklin Road straight to Neves Road would solve the congestion problem. Reasons given by council that this does not happen is they wish the developers to pay for it and they don't wish to do it twice. Can a traffic counter be installed to assess the viability for it to occur? The response provided by Director Assets is, with respect to the East Wanneroo District Structure Plan, Cape on Street is proposed as Neighborhood Connector Road and is not identified to be duplicated to 4 lanes in the future. The latest traffic count undertaken in September 2021 has average weekday traffic volume of 13,200 vehicles per day, which is still within the road design capacity of 2 lanes. With reference to Section 4.5 of the Road Planning Study Report done as part of the East Wanneroo District Structure Plan, it has been suggested that any section of road exceeding 20,000 vehicles per day requires 4 lanes. Based on this and current traffic count, Cape on Street is not warranted for dueling. Future upgrade of Cape on Street will be undertaken as part of the Development Contribution Plan being developed as part of East Wanneroo District Structure Plan, but will not be duplicated to 4 lanes. It is also advised that connection of Franklin Road through to Neves Road is also a connection that will occur once substantial development of the East Wanneroo District Structure Plan has occurred, which will be the result of private land development. City has no plans for this to occur ahead of this time, given the surrounding road network is operating within design capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Would Ms. Jennifer Young like to come forward?
Question, Mayor.
This is public question time, not councillor question time.
It's to do with the response the city provided in relation to the CCTV. Just want to clarify that response.
This is public question time, not councillor question time. We can give you the answer to your question later, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Would Ms Jennifer Young like to come down for her statement on ASO 11023 this evening? Is Jennifer here this evening? Thank you. Just give us your name and the suburb you live in, please, Jennifer. And they've turned the microphone on for you, the light's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Jennifer Young. I live in Butler. It's just in regards to the exit from the department, the licensing department. From the briefing notes, it says in here that it is necessary and considered feasible for the Department of Transport to construct a northbound left-out exit only onto Benenden Avenue and close off the laneway access onto Delvin Lane. I just want to know what is the process from here and how long will it take for that to happen?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed recommendation is for the city to write to the Department of Transport with those 3 actions. One is to remove the vehicular access to Delvin Lane, and second one is to construct another access of Benenden. given that the facility has been constructed in accordance with the planning approval granted by JDAP, City can only request based on the information they provided as part of application and what actually we are experiencing, and we can request department to consider the new information and make modifications. So department will be only one to tell us when they can complete that work, if they do. So we are requesting a response. If council approves the recommendations tonight, a response by 30th of November.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have another question? Do you have any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms Young. We now have a statement, question number 4 today on the ancient men's shed. Mr Malcolm Gale, would you like to come to the podium and give us your name and the suburb you live in? Thank you, Mr Gale.
Evening, Mayor Linda Aitken and councillors and council officers and other attendees. I am the chairman of the Yanchep Community Men's Shed, and I am bearing some bad news. After 7 years of operating under difficult circumstances, serving the community, supplying good products such as the tables at the Lagoon, Neptune Cafe and the Yanchep Inn, working on interesting and varying projects with local schools and supplying similar projects to the general public, we are again facing the crisis of needing long-term suitable accommodation from next February. You will therefore find the petition mentioned tonight in front of you, which has been signed by 1,200 people in the community, asking that the City of Wanneroo to find the Yanchep Community Men's Shed some land or a building to continue our service. It is disappointing that even though officers of the council identified and offered land at Oldham Park to allow us to build a new shed, and the leasing department had prepared leases to go to a council meeting ready for us to sign, administration have recently rejected our hopes of building a new shed at Oldham Park, stating bushfire regulations have determined the site is not suitable for us to build on. It is therefore the opinion of our members and our wider community supporters that council have been negligent in their duties.
Mr Gale,
by not carrying out.
Mr Gale, I really think your statement that council or city administration staff has been negligent is actually inappropriate, but I would like to ask Mr Clem to respond to your statement so far, please. Thank you. The fact that you have mentioned that council and administration, in your opinion, have been negligent at that point, I want to give administration an opportunity to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, in regards to the Oldham Park site, there was investigations undertaken into the suitability of that site along with the men's shed group. There were some site size restrictions at Oldham Park, and that through our discussions with the group, that led to the issue around the size of the facility that could be constructed there. And through the further investigations that were undertaken, there were potential issues with the level of exposure to bushfire risk at the site.
Thank you, Mr Clem. If you could continue your statement, please, Mr Gale.
Thank you, Mayor. To continue on, that the site has already been mentioned, had the problems of the bushfire, and in processing our development at Oldham Park, the Yanchep Community Men's Shed Volunteers Committee had spent many hours in discussion with interested building consultant, who prepared excellent reports and fully workable drawings which were submitted to council officers and were again discussed at meetings and site visits. The consultant's work has incurred expenditure, some which we have paid for and some we are likely still to be invoiced for now that Oldham Park has been rejected.
Mr Gow, you've had 3 minutes for public question time. I will allow you to have another 2 minutes to finish your statement, but I just want you to be aware that you've already had 3 minutes, okay? Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to put a motion to extend the time as long as it's needed, especially given the number of members that are here on this very important issue. So, and they've come all the way from Yanchep.
Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Coetzee? Okay, so we will vote to extend the time for this item for Mr Gow to finish. Councillors, please cast your vote. Sorry? I've been advised by governance that we still need to limit the time. Just a moment. Mr Gow, how much time do you need to finish your statement? Okay, so 5 minutes would be plenty? Okay, so are my fellow councillors happy with 5 minutes because we have to nominate the time? Do you want to retake the vote again or you're happy with it? We have 10 councillors supporting the procedural motion to extend the time for Mr Gow's deputation of 5 minutes, and we have 1 against, which is Councillor Rowe. Thank you. So continue. You have 5 minutes, Mr Gow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, therefore, I'm here tonight to appeal to councillors to please find us land which we can pay a peppercorn rent for that was going to be offered for Oldham Park, or use of an existing building for low rent. Otherwise, from February 2024, our lease expires. If we can negotiate an extension, it is likely that we will be expected to pay higher rents in the fact that the increases in the mortgages have been going up, which will quickly drain our resources. This effect may mean the future of the shed and a much-needed community facility will be jeopardised, and the Yanchep and Two Rocks residents as a whole will be deprived of another community facility. Unfortunately, if the men's shed was a sporting club with young children or adults participating, the city would, as they have in the past, work towards finding the accommodation, a long-term sustainable home. It seems that because we are older, we are less appealing to the city, and administration are helping, we will tire in our pursuit to find a permanent home. As a rider to my statement, that is happening at the moment, and we would like the council to consider, there is an opportunity adjacent to our building that an existing shed, suitable size, to provide facilities for the shed, but also to provide other accommodation for community groups to meet at a selling price of $1.1 million, which we would ask the council to investigate purchasing as a sound investment to support the community and the services that the community groups and particularly our Yanchep Community Men's Shed provides. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Gow. Mr Clem, would you like to respond to that? I'm sure that as a city, we will not stop working with the men's shed. We want to work with the club to make sure that they get suitable accommodation. But Mr Clem, would you like to respond to Mr Gow's statement, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We are continuing to investigate options for the airship men's shed, and in the meantime, as we've indicated in a letter to the group in August, if they are unable to continue their current arrangements at their current location, the city could provide access to a community facility to continue providing social support and health and wellbeing initiatives. And in addition to that, we have committed to assisting them with finding storage options for their equipment whilst we continue.
Okay, Mr Councillor Nguyen, one question.
Mr Clem, you mentioned several options, including some community facilities. Can you just be more specific about what is actually available, because they are running out of time when the lease is going to expire, and there was mention of a potential private investment on the side, which you haven't actually made a comment to. Could I please just hear your explanation on, or if there's a possible option for that as well?
Mr Clem?
Thank you, Mayor. With respect to the arrangements for usage of a community facility, the Oldham Park club rooms would be made available, or could be made available to the group for them to undertake some of their community activities and wellbeing activities. That would not include placing their industrial equipment within the facility to operate that, but more of their other group activities like meetings and the like. In regards to the adjacent site to their current facility, this is the first time that I believe we've had that option raised to us, so we would have to undertake further investigations into what could be possible there.
Thank you, Mr Clem.
I wonder whether Mr Liu has any question arising from that.
Mr Gow had his time. Do you have any questions arising from this, Mr Gow, Ms Clem's response?
Thanks very much. Yeah, I acknowledge from our administration side that they have continually stated that the Oldham Park can be used as a social area, and they have got possibly we could put our containers down at Ashby. But the fact is that we've got nearly $60,000 worth of equipment which would not be used at all. And the main principle of a men's shed is using a workshop for producing woodwork items and metalwork items. And what we are being offered is nothing that will provide those facilities.
Thank you, Mr Gow. Okay, now we go to Mr Hugh Nguyen, questions from the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Evening, Councillors. Hugh Nguyen, number 42, the Broadview in Lansdale. Sorry for my lateness. If I may, Madam Mayor, I'll ask a few questions first, and then maybe the city can answer them all, because I think from experience last time we ran out of time. So if I can...
Probably be better to do one at a time and have the answers. Thank you. That's how I'm chairing the meeting. Thank you, Mr Nguyen. Turn your mic on.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. The first question I have is in relation to the Standards Panel decision in relation to the Deputy Mayor, which is public information. I understand that the normal protocol is that, or the requirement is that the city publish its decision or the Standards Panel decision on its website within a particular time frame. When is the city intending to publish that decision? Because it's not available on the website, the city's website.
I understand that there is a period for possible appeal, but I'll pass that through to Ms Cole to confirm that.
Thank you for the question. The City is following the processes. The complaints register has been updated with the information that we're allowed to publish at this stage, but I understand that the department wait 28 days to actually publish the decision, and that will become part of their register. And there will be a link so you can download it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Nguyen. Do you have another question?
I do. I have a number of questions, as I've said from the start. Madam Mayor, there is an indication that an apology to Councillor Vin Nguyen is not forthcoming. Again, that is public information. If there is a refusal to apologise, my question to the City is, has anyone, including yourself, counselled?
Mr Nguyen, no decision. It hasn't been finalised yet. There is the 28-day period. So this question you're asking is prescriptive and no event has actually happened. So I think I'll pass it on to Ms Cole, but we will follow the process.
Thank you for the question. There is a process to be followed. The respondent gets 28 days to enter if they want to appeal to SAT, which they can do, and the processes for the City do not start until that point.
My next
Mr
question.
Nguyen, your next question.
Yes, my next question, Madam Mayor, is if that is the case, which I understand completely, the tenure of the Deputy Mayor is going to be finished on the 21st of October this month. So how does it work in terms of an apology if a member of the Council has already finished their tenure?
Ms Coles, I think the answer is we will follow the process.
We will follow the process that's required. If the respondent is not going to or is unable to make an apology, there is a process to be followed and we will follow that if that occurs.
Mr Nguyen.
And following on from that, if there is a refusal, I'm talking hypothetical here, if there is a refusal, then I understand that the City then needs to publish the apology. Is that correct?
I think we'll go back to Ms Coles and we will follow the process.
We will follow the process. There is a timeline, and the process is set out by the department, and we will follow that. So there's the current 28 days, and then you have to wait until the potential council meeting that the apology could have been made from, and then you have to wait a further 28 days, and then at that point the City can then follow their processes.
Mr Nguyen, do you have another question?
I do, Madam Mayor. I have a number of other questions. So my question still on that topic is if there is a refusal or if an apology is not forthcoming for whatever reason, if the City needs to advertise, do we know the cost of advertising that and who bears that cost?
Ms Coles?
Yeah, we'll calculate the budget and the cost involved when we know what part of the process that we have to implement.
Mr Nguyen, you have another question? Mr Nguyen,
I do, Madam Mayor. Now, just going on to the next area, again, this is public information. There is planned to be a private and separate dinner to farewell the Deputy Mayor on the 16th of October. My question is, based on my experience, normally there isn't a separate and private dinner held for any particular individual before the tenure is finished, which is the 21st of October. Can the City clarify why it is holding a function, if you like, before the tenure finishes and before the election results are known?
Thank you, Mr Nguyen. Mr Nguyen, Deputy Mayor Treby has not nominated again to run for council. He has been on council for 24 continuous years since the start of the City of Wanneroo, while it was a shire since 1999. He has had 6 terms of continuous service. No other councillor has ever done that. And because he is not running again, most people when they retire have a celebration of their retirement before they actually leave where they're working. And it is not a dinner, it is a stand-up function. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My last question is in relation to the city's Facebook page and also the Facebook page of the Mayor. Residents have been complaining about the fact that they've been blocked, quite a few of them actually, from those two Facebook pages.
First of all, Mr Nguyen, that is a private Facebook page, and so therefore who runs that Facebook page can determine how that Facebook page is run. Second of all, this is about trying to bring someone into disrepute with your questions, and those questions are against the standing orders. Third of all, those questions are not part of the agenda for this evening. So, and you've also had over 3 minutes of question time, so you may now sit down, Mr Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr Harrison, would you like to come up and ask your questions and just tell us your name and the suburb you live in? Thank you.
Good evening, councillors and the Mayor. Greg Harrison, 125 Capelin Street, Marigini. We're currently on the front line of this future East Wanneroo structure plan. It seems to be for the resident, extremely confusing. The developers themselves seem to find it confusing, and people actually live in this area. And the fact that there's one major thing is they don't want, or the West Australian Planning Commission would like all residual dwellings to be removed, which seems to be against the normal procedure of a structure plan. And this can be slowing the whole system down if the East Wanneroo structure plan is to commence. And this co-contribution seems to somehow fall to the land developer or land owner, because developers say, we're not going to pay you as much because we have to co-contribute, and since we will pay you less for your land. This doesn't seem to be fair, how we have to pay for the infrastructure, and it seems to be holding the whole system up. A main example is a sewage pumping station, which is next door, which seems to feed the whole of East Wanneroo into one particular spot, and yet no one developer seems to want to pay for. So it seems to be a stalling situation, and as landowners, we're very confused. And so I was wondering if the council does support the residual dwellings, and can the council somehow just pay for these major sections of infrastructure so that East Wanneroo, which is well overdue because the infrastructure itself, i.e. roads, are overloaded and they need to be upgraded so they can work more efficiently and safety, as it's deemed quite a high.
Thank you, Mr Harrison. I'll just pass this on to Mr Van Hannigan, and he can respond to your circumstances and what the plans are. Thank you, Mr Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor. Firstly, there's no requirement for any housing to be removed. So when if people want to stay in their houses, there's nothing in the planning system that forces them to sell their houses or to not live there anymore. That's the one point. The other point is that the district structure plan and the urbanisation of East Wanneroo will take many decades. So some of the precincts will be in the shorter term. So the short term is probably anything from about 5 years from now. But it will take many decades, up to 60, 70, 80 years for the whole area to be developed. So there would be significant time before the whole area is developed. In terms of the infrastructure provided, the state government is currently preparing a district level structure plan, a developer contribution plan that will include all the district level infrastructure provisions and contributions towards that. And then some of the precincts may be required to also have developer contribution plans. That would only be if there's lots of landowners in a particular precinct and there's a need for coordination between all the landowners. So nothing's been finalised yet in terms of developer contributions and the infrastructure to be provided. Those documents will be advertised, and members of the community will have an opportunity to comment on that when those have been drafted.
Thank you, Mr Van Hannigan. Are you happy with those responses, Mr Harrison? Thank you. Okay, we have Mr John Quinlivan who wants to speak to CP01. John, if you'd like to come down. Thank you. Give us your name and the suburb you live in.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors. I just want to come up to say on behalf of the Green Village, the bus trial, I believe, was quite successful. Looking forward to a good resolution from the councillors, and their support was very well accepted. We are happy with the use of the community bus. It gives us a short-term solution, but our aim is to get a long-term solution as we're an isolated village, as you know, and we're looking forward to support canvassing the local government, the MLA, for a more permanent solution. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr Quinlivan. We have one more question from the public gallery today, and that is from Alex Hardman. Alex, would you like to come down to the podium, give us your name and the suburb you live in, please?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, my name is Alex Hardman. I live at 75 Hollyford Parade in Butler. I'm sorry if the question has already been brought to you, because I've obviously just come from work and arrived a little bit late, which I'm sorry for. But the DOT centre on Butler Boulevard at the corner of Butler Boulevard and Bannerton Avenue. I just wanted to ask about if it should go ahead, that the exit be moved from the laneway on Bannerton because of the safety of public that passes through, even the MS Centre pets and children. Just wanted to get an idea on how long the process would be between if it was to go ahead and be approved and towards construction, and what sort of delays we'd be expecting.
Thank you, Alex. That's quite a reasonable question too. Mr Singh, would you like to respond to his question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Depending upon council decision, when this item comes up for discussion, the intention is for us to write to the department and seek a response by 30th of November. So we will have to expect a response from them by that time, and then we can provide community with an update what department's intentions are and what timelines they will take.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Hardman. Are there any further questions or statements from attendees at tonight's meeting? Yes, if you'd like to come down to the front and give us your name and the suburb you live in, sir.
Andy Murphy, Wanneroo. There's been many questions have been answered this evening about election signage, but there are many candidate signs still out on median strips, roundabouts and within 2 metres of verges or on infrastructure posts. Has the council considered running education courses pre-election for candidates who are unable to understand distances, road layouts and what a median strip is?
Mr Clem?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your question. When candidates formally submit their applications to be candidates, either running for the election, they are provided with written information regarding what they can and can't do with election signage.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
Are you willing to run education courses then? everybody received the information, but
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to be
It
sinking in.
doesn't seem to be sinking in. Yes, I do understand that. There's also been a lot of complex issues with signage as well, but we take that on notice and we'll see what we can do. That would mean every candidate would have to attend that, would organise, or it would be a voluntary attention of the
Or an
education.
online type thing from WEC type.
Yeah,
No worries.
we could submit that. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from the gallery? If there are no more questions from the gallery, Item 4, confirmation of minutes, OCO1 1023. I need a mover and seconder for the minutes. Moved Councillor Herridge, seconded Deputy Mayor Treby. And so therefore we just go to the vote to confirm the minutes from the last meeting. And that is passed unanimously. Item 5, announcements by the Mayor without discussion. Tonight is the last ordinary council meeting prior to the election. After the election, the dynamic of council will be changing, and I would like to thank council for their support over the last 12 months. And we have made many significant decisions to benefit our community. I'd just like to thank my fellow council members. Tonight is also the last ordinary council meeting attended by our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Brett Treby. Councillor Treby has been with the city since its beginning in 1999 and has provided continuous service to the city ever since, a total of 24 years. During that time, he has helped many of the city's residents with a range of community issues, being a councillor originally for the Alexander Ward, which has evolved into what is now known as the South Ward. Councillor Treby has dedicated an incredible 24 years to service of the City of Wanneroo. Throughout his 2 decades as councillor, he has been elected as Deputy Mayor twice, from October 2007 to 2009, and then from October 2021 to 2023. He's been the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee and sat on many of the city's committees and working groups over the years. He's been a delegate to the Walga State Council, Mindari Regional Council and Tamala Park Regional Council, which is now called Catalina Regional Council. He's also currently the Deputy Chairperson on the National Growth Areas Alliance, and he has been on many other groups. I express thanks to Deputy Mayor Treby for all he has done to provide a positive and meaningful contribution to our community during his time here and being supportive of me as I've taken on the mayoral role over the last 12 months. Myself and council wish him and his family the very best in the future and in whatever endeavour he chooses to pursue following his retirement from council. And I now give the Deputy Mayor the opportunity to say a few words as this is his last ordinary council meeting as an elected member. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Treby.
Thank you, Mayor Aitken. First and foremost, I want to pay tribute to and thank my family, my wife Josephine, our children Melissa, Nicole, Kathleen and Alexander, who, as you all know, tragically passed away earlier this year. This has been a particularly difficult year for us all, certainly not assisted by those who have chosen to exploit this tragedy as an attack on both myself and my family. When you become a councillor, your family is inevitably impacted. Time away from family, missing important family events and not being there when those closest to you need your attention and help the most. In many circumstances, most negatively, family are also unjustly and unfairly treated as public figures. This is why I and we this is the sacrifice that I and we have made for our community. My work for the community over the past 24 years has cost our family dearly, and now is the time for me to put my family first. Our family crest motto is Virtute non astitia, which means by excellence, not by cunning. And this continues to guide my every involvement through public, professional and private life. I do wish to pay specific credit to my very good friend and first Mayor of the City of Wanneroo, John Kelly. In late 1999, we began to set the foundations of the city we now find ourselves in. Back then, the City of Wanneroo was seen as the poor cousins of the City of Joondalup. We were the council handed the poison chalice. Many were convinced the council at Wanneroo would stumble and fall. Well, history has proved them wrong. During our time together in the early days, Wanneroo grew stable and prosperous, whereas the City of Joondalup Council had been sacked twice with commissioners installed. As I've consistently said to the 50 elected members to have served Wanneroo over my time here, acting individually and choosing not to positively engage with all of council means you're unlikely to make a difference for the community. In short, an individual elected member can only achieve legacy when working positively with others. I'm proud to say that I've achieved legacy, not only for the broader community of Wanneroo, but also for the governance administration of the city. From our beginnings in 1999, we were asset rich and cash poor. A local government of 66,000 people. The city is now in a very strong financial position, with a governing body that has remained stable, developing a sector-leading governance and risk culture across the organisation. The City of Wanneroo is now the largest by population in this state, and with new executive leadership and hopefully an incoming visionary and strong council, there is a financially sound and stable basis to set a bright future for all across the city. I would like to pay tribute to several members of the senior executive and elected members because, as I've mentioned earlier, teamwork across council and the executive is the only way to achieve positive legacy for the residents of the city. To Harminder Singh, Acting CEO this evening and Director of Assets, he's always been a man of genuine commitment and excellence that I hold in the very highest esteem. I have, and I will always have, the greatest of respect for Harminder and members of his team. Several here this evening, and I'd like to certainly point out Grant Shuttleberg as well. Grant's been also an outstanding member, and I've thoroughly enjoyed his acting opportunities as the Director of Assets over the years. Mr. Mark Dixon, Director Planning Extraordinaire, without peer in local government sector and a thorough professional. A genuinely all-round great person with a positive disposition, and Mark is somewhat of a shark on the golf course. To Nolene Jennings, Director of Corporate, and her team, who have led the city to the sustainable and prosperous position that we now find ourselves in. To Nolene and her team, I can say a heartfelt thank you. And also, and I've mentioned this before, Debbie Terrelink, who I can say without fear of contradiction, was former Director of Community in Place, and she certainly was the best Director of Community in Place the city has ever had. The qualities of a good and effective elected member are much the same as being a good and loyal colleague, being thoughtful and respectful of all within our community, and capable of making difficult, fair and just decisions. And dare I repeat, virtute non astitia, which is by excellence in everything they do. To Mayor Linda Aitken, you have certainly grown into the role of Mayor, in circumstances where some have taken it upon themselves to make it as difficult as possible for you. My personal view is that, and this is my personal view, is that you are the standout candidate to carry on as Mayor because you alone can bring the future council together. I'm very proud to have served, albeit for a very short time, with friends and colleagues James Rowe and Natalie Herridge. They are the embodiment of all the positive qualities for being outstanding elected members. Through these very fine councillors and indeed outstanding individuals, the future of council has a chance, and I can only hope that new elected members model themselves on their positive example. Over the years, Councillor Frank Civic and I have worked together to help shape and steer the city through difficult and trying times. Frank is a very honourable man, one of deep conviction and a man who is prepared to stand by his principles. I've always respected and welcomed his counsel and views, and I wish him all the very best in the future. Councillor Glenys Parker is without doubt the moral and ethical barometer of the City of Wanneroo. She is steadfastly passionate about her community and a champion of doing what is right, not necessarily what is popular. I know Glenys as a person of strong values and convictions, and she also believes that decisions made on the basis of personalities and not facts, findings or evidence can only be bad decisions. And finally, to the new council of the City of Wanneroo, I wish you all the very best and leave you with one final thought. In true Dunning-Kruger style, once you're sworn in as a councillor, you begin the journey of understanding what you do not know. Accept and welcome that to become then comfortable with all that being a councillor means. Thank you all.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Treby, and thank you for your service. So, item 6, we have questions from council members, but the questions are to be related to items on the agenda. Do we have any questions? If we have no questions, we go to item 7, new petitions. Councillor Coetzee has a petition to present from the Yanchep Community Men's Shed.
I do. Thank you so much. I would like to say thank you to the Men's Shed community that's here in such a big group. The Men's Shed obviously is very close to everybody's heart, and not just to the men, the wives, the community, the schools, everybody. Thank you so much, and it would be such a pity if you guys should lose that shed. I have a petition here from the Men's Shed, and with the passionate community, they've received 1,218 signatures. They're asking for help for the shed to have a permanent home. Their current situation is their lease finishes in February 2024, and it is unknown if their lease will increase or terminate as of February 2024. They request land to build a shed or an existing facility to operate from. May I please ask a question to administration?
Yes, you may, Councillor Coetzee.
As we all know that the Men's Shed is undergoing a big problem, especially from next year, February. Will it be possible that this matter will be brought to the very first forum after the elections?
Mr. Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. We'll certainly treat this with priority and try and get a response back at the earliest possible council meeting.
Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you. No, I thought I heard Councillor Coetzee ask that it come to the next forum for us to discuss it, not the next council meeting.
Mr. Clem.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And apologies. That is possible. Yes, we can bring that to forum for discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clem. Okay, I have a petition to present. It is petition 23345820, and it's 100 signatures, and it states, we the undersigned do formally request Council's consideration for access to Clarkson Primary School, and specifically at the roundabout intersection of Aldersley Circle and Renshaw Boulevard, to be made safer for people who choose to walk and cycle in line with the latest recommendations from the Department of Education, Department of Finance and Department of Transport. This can be achieved in a number of ways, including the addition of traffic calming, zebra crossings and a traffic warden. The observed volume volume of vehicles and pedestrians using this intersection recorded during AM and PM peak hour survey in May 2023 shows that this intersection qualifies for the provision of a Traffic Warden A in line with the conditions outlined by the Western Australian Police Force. Currently, people don't cross there because it's not safe, as per MRWA Ausroads RAC advice. And having someone there would mean people would be able to use that location to cross safely. Thank you for that petition. Do I have a mover and seconder for the petitions? Moved Councillor Herridge, seconded Councillor Huntley. Can we go to our vote? And the petitions were passed unanimously. We now, only declarations of interest by council members, including the nature and extent of which the interests are to be made at the commencement of the item we are about to talk about, in which the interest relates, and declarations of interest forms are to be completed and handed to the Acting Chief Executive Officer. Item 8, reports, planning and sustainability. I intend to move item PSO 1 1023, PSO 2 1023 and PSO 3 1023 on block, moved by Councillor Civic and seconded by Deputy Mayor Treby. Do you wish to speak to this item, Councillor Civic?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, the developer contributions are looked at each year on a yearly basis to ensure that we're in line with development procedures, so that the facilities required for across these three items are carefully catered for, so that we can provide these facilities in due course. I don't wish to go into any further detail on each individual item, but I'm happy to move it across the board. And in terms of the planning process, I'd like to thank Mr Dixon and his team for coming up with the strategies required for providing these facilities over time in terms of financial arrangements in the foreseeable future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Civic. And Deputy Mayor Treby, do you want to speak to this item?
Just to briefly add, I think it's an important part of the process to recognise and understand that this is an annual mechanism to review the DCPs to make sure that they, on an annual basis, reflect current trends for the construction of facilities that have been identified, and also reflects the current community needs and emerging community needs as it's reviewed on an annual basis. So I think all of those reports will certainly reflect that, and I recommend them to Council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Treby. Do you have a question, Councillor Miles?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. And I did speak to the Acting Director, Mr Van Heineken, beforehand. I just wanted to ask him if you could advise why Cell 7 and Cell 8, which are both for the Wangara industrial area, have such a large change. One's $11 and $11.12 per square metre, and the other one's $31.54 per square metre. Valuation's almost identical, and when I looked at the actual report, it doesn't highlight why there is such a significant change, and I just asked if he could put a bit more robustness around that.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Mr Van Heineken?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor. So this rate depends on the value of the outstanding infrastructure works to be funded. So you'll note that in Cell 7, there's remaining of infrastructure of $11.2 million. And in Cell 8, the remaining infrastructure is $39.8 million. So you can refer to page 87 for that table. So because of that, the rate is higher in Cell 8. Administration is recommending for both rates to be retained, similar to last year's annual review. And one of the reasons for that was that when this was advertised last year, there was lots of objections against a decrease in the contribution, because that would unjustly benefit previous contributors if they advantage the future developers will be benefiting from that if it's reduced, because it's significant, it would be significantly less. So we are proposing for both of the rates to retain the same, and we will propose for that to be advertised, and council can consider the submissions after advertising.
Thank you, Mr Van Hannigan. Because we've had a question on one of the items, we are unable to move them en bloc, so we'll have to go through them separately. So because we've had a question on the third item, we will, Frank Savitten, Councillor Savitten will move PSO 31023 and Deputy Mayor Treby will second PSO 31023, and then we will do PSO 1 and PSO 2 separately. So please be clear, councillors, we are moving PSO 31023, which is consent to advertise East Wanneroo Cells 1 to 9 developer contribution arrangement. So please cast your vote on PSO3, please. Someone has, Councillor Nguyen, you haven't, oh, Councillor Nguyen's left. Okay, Councillor Nguyen is absent from the chamber. Do you know if he's coming back?
Continue the vote, then we'll continue.
Okay, we will continue with the vote and declare it passed unanimously. But please note that Councillor Nguyen has left the chamber, and if he's taken his belongings, please note that he's left the meeting as well. Has he taken his belongings?
Papers are here.
No, but his papers are there. Has he taken his phone and his belongings? Yes. Okay, so we can assume that he's left the meeting and we mark him as absent for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Now we move PSO 11023. Do I have a mover for PSO 1? Councillor Savitten and Councillor Coetzee. Seconded. Councillor Savitten, do you want to speak for the item?
As I said previously, Mayor, thank you. I guess my views have not changed, and I'm very happy to move this particular item based on the developer contributions being in line with the administration's requirements for providing of council buildings and infrastructure. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Savitten. Councillor Coetzee, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, just briefly. I had many questions around this, but I've spoken to Mr Dixon around it, got all my answers, so I'm happy to support.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote to PSO 11023. Councillor Nguyen has just entered the chamber again. Councillor Nguyen, could you please cast your vote for PSO 11023, please? Yes, it is. So it's not voting block? No, we're not. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to item PSO 21023. Do I have a mover and seconder? Moved Councillor Miles, seconded Deputy Mayor Treby. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this?
No, everything's fine, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Treby, do you want to speak to this?
I've nothing to add to what I previously said.
Okay, do I have any speakers against? If there are no speakers against, councillors, cast your vote. And it's passed unanimously. We now go to assets, ASO 11023, and I'll be moving this item, and Councillor Smith will be seconding this item. I remember getting a phone call from one of the residents about the traffic management, Simone Hardman it was, and how terrible it was for the families through the alleyways at the back there with the traffic going through there. So I'm really glad that we've got the petition tonight and we've got this recommendation, and we're trying to move as quick as we can to make it safe and to manage the traffic better for the community there. So I do ask my fellow councillors to support this item. Councillor Smith, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, very happy with the report. A little bit sad that the situation arose in the first place, but hopeful that recipients will be responsive to the action that the city requests.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Do I have any speakers against it? Councillor Miles?
I just had a follow-up question. I do want to thank administration for the change, by the way, in the recommendation from last week. But my question was a follow-up to what was asked by the resident earlier, both residents earlier. Bearing in mind that the facility was built under a DA, as we presently see it, is it possible that we can still, using the Planning Act, to enforce a change, bearing in mind that we've now discovered that the road traffic issue is a major concern?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The recommendation 4 actually addresses what Councillor Miles has just outlined. This will be a compliance action which City will be seeking from the landowners and Department of Transport.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Do I have any speakers against this item?
Sorry.
Are you speaking against it,
No,
Councillor Nguyen?
I'd like to just declare an interest in relation to this item. Before
Go
I go any
ahead,
further, in particular that I'm a member of the JDAB, which I understand has approved this petition in, I think, 2021. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on this matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and will vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Councillor Civic?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I also am a member of the Joint Development Assessment Panels, and with regard to this particular item, PSO1, thank you, AS, yes, I disclose, sorry, let me just get to the item so I can say it properly. My apologies, I had gone past it. Yes, ASO1, 1023. Thank you. In regard to this particular item, I disclose that I am a member of the Joint Development Assessment Panel, and a decision was made in line with this particular development some time ago. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Civic. Do I have any speakers against this item? Councillor Nguyen, what is your question?
When did we find out that it wasn't built in accordance with the DA? And why wasn't it picked up earlier?
It was, I think you'll find it was, but Mr Singh, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we have received 2 CRMs and the petition which highlighted the issues and concerns there. And now, as part of the assessment of the petition issues, we identified those issues, and depending on council decision, we'll be taking action.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Do I have any speakers against this item? If I've got no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. And that was passed unanimously. We now go to Parks Conservation Management, ASO 2-1023, the tender for 23114 Parks and Streetscape Maintenance, Madeley, Darsh and Lansdale. Reminding councillors that there is a confidential attachment to this, and if that needs to be discussed, we will then have to go through behind closed doors. Do I have a mover for this item? Yes, Councillor Herridge, a seconder. Councillor Huntley. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, just to thank our assets team and Mr Chettelberg for going through all of my questions and sitting and explaining it to me. What I did find interesting is the part of dealing with the contracts that we actually send out in the tenders. There's actually not a lot of, we're not saturated with choice. So the ones that we have out there that are able to do this, we actually use. So that was a good thing to actually explain and for me to understand. So thank you for that. We did also, with the questions, identify that the complaints and the feedback that we got actually had to be manual. So it's a good thing that we are updating our CRM system because that manual search actually missed out quite a lot that I'd actually done in the last 12 months as well. So I'm hopeful that everyone will support this as well, and thank Mr Chettelberg and the team for indulging my questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Herridge. Councillor Huntley, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any speakers against? Are you speaking against it, Councillor Nguyen? Okay, take the floor, Councillor Nguyen.
Look, I'm not really happy with what the service that's been provided in my area, and this is one of the biggest problems that I get in terms of complaints about verge maintenance and streetscape. I have to go out to see residents at night because that's the only time available after work. And when I go there, it's the same problem that's been reported. That is, this particular patch of area that is not properly maintained. And to the extent that this particular resident just had to carry out the actual maintenance itself because the person just thought it was easier to do it herself than to get it done by the contractor. Now, I don't know if this is a one-off or if it's ongoing, and I hope that this new contract that's been awarded to this tender will really pick up its game, pick up the quality of maintenance in our area. In Darch, Madley, Lansdale, we have so many parks, and I know that it might be difficult to keep up with the standard, but we have here $2.6 million that's been given to this area. So I expect quite a lot of work and effort to really deliver the quality. And if it does deliver that, then we should not be wasting time of having to continue having to lodge requests for ongoing maintenance of these parks, in addition to what has already been arranged. Now, I hope that if it's done properly, then this wouldn't be needed. This tender, I asked that the LT Total to take this opportunity to really improve on the process, and I guess don't take anything for granted, especially with these tenders, because we like to make sure that the services are provided to the standard, so that way we don't have these complaints from our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Mr Cheddlewood, would you like the opportunity to respond to that statement, please?
Through you, Mayor, thank you. If Councillor Nguyen would like to provide the information from the resident, we can certainly investigate that complaint to see if it actually sits within the contract itself. As discussed at briefing, we've got, through the service review process, we certainly identified some improvements to our contract management and KPIs aligned to contracts based on the performance of contractors going forward. So we can certainly manage our contractors in an improved way and manner through our contracts. We also discussed at briefing that we've, through the service review, I've identified some improvements in regards to frequencies on our streetscapes, and we've actually increased these aligned to the Streetscape South contract that was adopted by Council in September 2023. So we're confident that with those increased frequencies, we can manage the streetscape element of this contract to the standard that we require.
Thank you, Mr Cheddleberg. Do I have a speaker for this item? Councillor Civic.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I will speak in favour of this item. I live directly opposite one of those parklands, which is natural bush. And I've seen the contractor being there on many occasions, not just there, but on other occasions within that particular area of Madley, Darch and Lansdale. So I really don't have a problem with that. And if there were real major problems, I'm sure that our administration would have picked them up and rectified them under the previous contracts. So I'm happy with this particular item and will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Svitten. Do I have any speakers against this item? If I have no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the item passed, 10 for, 1 against, and the councillor that voted against it was Councillor Nguyen. We now go to transactional finance, CSO 11023. Do I have CSO 1? CPO 1? Oh, sorry, I thought we'd done that. CPO 11023, the Green Fairway Lifestyle Village Progress Update, moved by Councillor Svitten, seconded by Deputy Mayor Treby. Councillor Svitten, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes,
Sorry,
thank you, Mayor.
just declare an interest?
Sorry.
Yes, you may declare an interest, Councillor Nguyen.
Yes, I've had an opportunity to meet with the residents at the Green Fairway Lifestyle Village recently, and I declare that as a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on this matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and will vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Councillor Svitten, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm pleased that this item's come up at this point in time, and I'd like to say thank you very much to Mr John Quinlivan for all his help and the way that he's approached this on behalf of the residents of the Green, all being retirees for that matter. But look, I'm pleased about this, and I'm really happy that administration have looked into this and come up with a compromise to appease the residents there, and a bus to be provided to them. I guess it may be free of charge because they are seniors at this stage. There are negotiations taking place with the local member, Ms Sabine Winton, and also Transperth in time, but this service now has been it has been approved by administration to help them through this difficult time until they can find their feet and actually maybe provide their own bus, or we continue under a different arrangement with the city. So I'm really pleased for this, and there has been one minor change, and at the on item 2 in the recommendation, there's just been, in accordance with the community transport policy, added from last week. So I'm really, I thank Mr Clem for correcting that particular part of the recommendation, and I urge my fellow councillors to support this, and very happy for the Green. Thank you.
Councillor Miles, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My question is to administration.
Councillor Miles,
Yep.
we will do Deputy Mayor Treby's response before your question, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I can just highlight certainly the points that the Councillor Svitten has raised, and just also highlight the efforts of all of the residents at the Green, and Mr Quinlivan as well, if you could pass those regards on to them, by working with the city to try and resolve this short-term issue. It was always likely to be the case with non-frontal development. It is a fantastic and marvellous facility that at the Green, where this is these members of our community have found a new home. But given the lack of infrastructure and support infrastructure, it was always likely to be a problem. And being able to be part of a council and city who can come up with unique strategies to try and fill those short-term issues, and I think work collegiately and collaboratively with the residents of the Green has really shone through. I'm very pleased to, and I have great confidence in this is going to be taken forward with the local member. And the only piece of advice I would pass on to Mr Quinlivan and the community at the Green is don't take your foot off the pedal, keep that pressure up, and I'm sure it will be successful.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Treby. Councillor Miles, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. My question is, and I noticed that the report has been updated as per after the briefing. My question relates to, because the city is able to provide a community transport service for this particular lifestyle village, and I totally support that. But has administration asked Public Transport Authority or the minister responsible if there is a level of support or funding that can be gained, bearing in mind that we're doing a stop-gap measure until that area obviously comes on stream a lot faster.
Mr. Singh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think when the petition came up last time, a few months ago, we did contact PTA, and PTA's response was in negative at the time. So given that, they did say that this area is not on their radar to provide bus service.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Do you have another question, Councillor Miles?
Yes, I'm just wondering then whether the Mayor's office can write to the respective minister, I don't know who it is these days, and actually request that they could actually provide funding to help us in these outer suburbs deliver these sort of services.
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. We did write to local member for Wanneroo at that time, and we're happy to follow that up. I think we need to get an outcome of the contact we made with the local member first before council can make a further decision.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Do I have any speakers against this item? Are you speaking a question? Councillor Nguyen.
Sorry, can I just clarify whether an amendment is needed to direct administration to write to the PTA to follow up on that? Or would that be something that you will do in any event?
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. As I outlined earlier, we did write to PTA when the petition came up earlier, a few months ago, and as a result of that, council decision was to write to local member for Wanneroo, which we have done. Given that we haven't had a response, we're happy to follow that up.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? There are no speakers against this item. Please cast your vote. Someone hasn't voted. Passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We now go to CSO 1-1023, warrant of payments for the period to the 31st of August 2023. Do I have a mover and seconder? Mover, Councillor Rowe, seconder, Deputy Mayor Treby. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor. The warrants of payments are comprehensive as always.
Deputy Mayor Treby, would you like to speak?
It's probably fair to say that Councillor Rowe has provided a concise summary of those matters, and I'm happy to support his comment.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? There are no speakers against this item. Councillors, please cast your vote. And that item is passed unanimously. We now go to CSO 2-1023, the financial activity statement for the period ended the 31st of August 23. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Mover, Deputy Mayor Treby. Seconder, Councillor Civic. Deputy Mayor Treby, would you like to speak to this?
No, the report is extensive and thorough, and just demonstrates again how we're tracking against budget, and also against the city's CBP. So I think that's absolutely accurate and fine.
Councillor Civic.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? There are no speakers against this item. Councillors, please cast your vote. And that item is passed unanimously. We now go to CSO 3-1023, which is the proposed closure of unnamed unconstructed road reserves in the Dundebar region. Do we have a mover and a seconder for this item? Moved, Councillor Miles. Seconded, Councillor Civic. Councillor Miles, would you like to talk to this item?
Just briefly, other than one question I asked last week, Mayor, I don't think I got a reply on, and that was, were these unnamed roads used presently for horse riders as bridle trails?
Thank you. Mr. Greer, do you have a response to that?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the follow-up question. There is information in the the report updated between briefing and this evening in that respect. Administration sought further clarification both from internal staff on whether there was any awareness of bridle trails accessing through those road reserve areas, and also further from DPLH, which of course had initiated this on behalf of the WAPC. Based on both those inquiries, there was no indication that there was. However, what we do propose to do as part of the public advertising that's part of the recommended resolution is to make one particular stakeholder group, which is the Wanneroo Horse and Pony Club, which is obviously a user group in the broader vicinity, aware of the advertising, and if the advice we've had and the information is incorrect and there are actually bridle trails, I would expect that will be borne out through the through that advertising process.
Thank you, Mr Greer. Mr Singh would like to further comment on this question as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to ask Mr. Greer to point out the page number where the information has been added.
Through you, Mayor. It is provided on page 281 in the consultation section. It's the final paragraph commencing in the course of consultation with DPLH.
Thank you, Mr Greer. Any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, so Councillor Miles, you've spoken to this item, have you?
Yes, I'm happy to support the item going for advertising. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Civic, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, yes, it's good that this will go out to advertising. These particular portions of unnamed road which are in red, I guess if everything goes smoothly and East Wanneroo evolves, this particular reserve for conservation of flora and fauna, I guess will possibly have one number as time goes on, and these particular lots adjoining those will amalgamate into that. But certainly the road reserves are no longer required, and it's a good thing that we tidied them up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Civic. Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to item CSO 41023, electronic attendance at meetings. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Moved, Councillor Nguyen, seconded. Councillor Miles. Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to this item?
Madam Mayor, if I may, I have a procedural motion.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Treby, do you have a seconder for the procedural motion? Councillor Huntley. Okay, we
That's a procedural motion 7.1A, which is that the motion be deferred.
Okay, and Councillor Huntley, you second that and support that?
Yeah, I do, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
If I can just, a couple of brief words as to why.
Okay.
I don't believe, given the questions that were raised last week and my own concerns and those that I've spoken with other elected members, I don't know that there is sufficient confidence in how the policy is going to be operationalised. And I think further work needs to be done to consider that, what the operational impacts are before it actually comes back to a council meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Treby. Do you want to mention anything at all, Councillor Huntley, before we go straight to vote?
No, I'm in agreement with Deputy Mayor Treby. There are some issues and I think we need to clear them up before we actually put this to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Are there any speakers against? So we go straight to the vote. Thank you. The procedural motion is passed with 8 votes and 3 against, and those who are against it are Councillor Nguyen, Councillor Berry and Councillor Miles. So the procedural motion has been supported and it will go back for more information at forum. Thank you. We now go to governance and legal, and that is CEO 1/1023, annual review of the strategic 3-year plan. Do I have a mover for that? Deputy Mayor Treby. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Civic. Deputy Mayor Treby, would you like to speak to this?
Oh, look, very briefly, this has already come through to audit and risk, and there was quite a fair discussion on the audit plan, and which targeted the areas of relatively high risk in the audit, and appropriately apportioned the audit resources to those areas, and the plan, as is before us this evening, reflects that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Treby. Councillor Civic, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Treby has covered the item well, and I will be supporting it.
Do we have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. We're missing one councillor. Thank you, and it's passed unanimously. We now go to CEO 2-1023, review and extension of review dates for council policies. Do we have a mover and seconder? Moved, Councillor Rowe, seconded, Councillor Herridge. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And CEO 2 is passed unanimously. We now go to item 9, which is motions on notice. And our first motion on our first motion on notice is MNO 1-1023, Councillor Huntley, community-led event for community and sporting groups. Do we have a seconder for your motion on notice, Councillor Huntley? Councillor Coetzee. Okay, Councillor Huntley, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is something that is close to my heart, and I would like to thank administration and the events team for putting on such wonderful events that we all enjoy here in Wanneroo. In no way does this undermine the efforts of our teams or the many events on our calendar. I appreciate that administration's thoughtful response to the proposed motion for a community-led event. However, I would like to address some of the points made in their comments and continue advocating for the endorsement of a single dedicated weekend event for our not-for-profit organisations to have their very own exhibition. While the administration rightly emphasises community-driven initiatives, it's crucial to understand that the proposed event does stem from the community. It is a grassroots effort to empower local not-for-profit groups and provide them with a platform to showcase their invaluable work. The community has expressed a need for this event, and we should listen to their voices. Existing events and programs undoubtedly provide opportunities for community engagement, but a dedicated event exclusively for not-for-profits offers a unique platform. It allows these organisations to shine individually without competing for attention in larger, diverse events, which they do so now. This focused approach can yield more substantial results in terms of community awareness and member recruitment. The proposed event is not intended to replace current initiatives, but rather complement them. By giving not-for-profit groups their dedicated weekend, we will enhance their visibility and create an atmosphere where they can thrive. It's about offering them a chance to stand out and tell their stories, which can be challenging in larger, multifaceted events. A dedicated event can also foster a sense of unity among not-for-profit organisations themselves. It encourages collaboration, networking, and the sharing of best practices. These groups can learn from one another, strengthening the entire not-for-profit community in the process. It is acknowledged that there may be challenges in identifying a lead group or agency for such an event. However, with the support of the city and our commitment to this endeavour, we can address these challenges together. The potential benefits of a dedicated not-for-profit expo outweighs these initial hurdles. Ultimately, supporting this motion aligns with our goal, empowering our community. It demonstrates our commitment to listening to their needs and facilitating initiatives that enhance their well-being. It is an investment in our community's strength and resilience. In conclusion, I firmly believe that a dedicated not-for-profit exhibition style show and tell recruiting weekend is a worthy initiative that deserves our support. It complements our existing programs and provides a tailored platform for our not-for-profit organisations to thrive. I kindly request that administration get behind and perhaps even change their mind to support this motion. I ask my fellow councillors to ensure this is our stance for backing our community's wishes and explore avenues to make this event a reality. It has the potential to have a lasting positive impact on all our community now and in the future. Please vote to support this motion. Thank you for your consideration.
Councillor Coetzee, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you. I think Councillor Huntley have covered everything.
Do we have any speakers against this item? Do you have a question, do you, Councillor Smith? Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. As the report acknowledges, if it's a community-led event, a committee would be required. So I'm just wondering if this passes, could the city, as part of the investigation, use its platform to do an expression of interest to see if anyone would want to join such a committee? Because I think that is, a biggest linchpin of this going forward. So just wanted to get clarification if that could be part of that process.
Mr. Clem.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. Yes, if Council does vote to support the motion, then an expression of interest is one of the options we could look at in regards to the event.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers? Do you have a question, Councillor Nguyen?
On page 330, there's an estimate of the cost of 25,000 to 40,000 for a single day community expo style event. Can you just give us an idea of what that cost will go towards?
Mr. Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. It was a high-level estimate based on community events that we conduct throughout the city, and the kind of things that money would be spent on would be marquee hire, generator hire, hire of a space if required, and things of that nature.
Thank you. Another question, Mr. Nguyen?
So if I were to consider, say, for example, using a park or oval as a public open, for the event, and each event participant will provide their own tent in that, would there be any cost to the city other than, I guess, personal costs in promoting and potentially, I guess, security costs?
Mr. Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. If the groups or if a group is leading the event and arranging all of those items themselves, then those costs would be borne by those groups. So if they were able to procure marquees and the like at a cheaper cost than what the city might get them, then that would be up to them. There would be an applicable fee for hire of a city venue. The group may or may not be eligible for a concession under our policy, but that's something we would talk through at the time of booking.
Thank you, Mr. Clem. Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question going on from Councillor Smith, which was a fantastic point for the expression of interest. Just if Councillor Huntley can answer, is there a league group that you already have in mind that's come to you for something like this?
Councillor Huntley.
We have many groups who would probably step up. The Wanneroo show is going to be really a showcase that we can actually achieve this with groups actually coming together and actually doing an event at the showgrounds to actually trial this.
Mr. Clem, would you like to respond to that in any way, shape or form?
That would be Thank you, Mayor. If my understanding is, and perhaps the Manager of Community Development could help me here, but my understanding is that community groups are able to already activate with the Wanneroo Show and have this option available to them already.
Ms Russell?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the community groups can already participate in the Wanneroo Show by contacting the Wanneroo Agricultural Society, so that option is already available to them.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. Just another one in terms of the investigation. I noticed that this type of event would be pairs up with WA's health campaign about Act, Belong, Commit. So if that could be part of the investigation as well, I think that's a fantastic partnership that embodies what we're trying to do with these community groups and getting people to connect into community, to volunteer, to build healthier relationships, which also goes towards their mental health.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 questions with your indulgence. I'll ask them separately. The first is that the mover referred to there being community support for such an initiative. Can I ask how many approximately community groups have approached the mover expressing interest in this project idea?
Councillor Huntley.
I have 6 at the moment.
And then the second, Mayor, thank you, would be how would such a whole-of-city event operate in alignment or in contradiction with our local place strategy? For example, I can think of Celebrate Girraween event, which actually included numerous not-for-profit organisations and clubs. However, it was at a localised context, which allowed them to interact with one another. So perhaps just a clarification around how a whole-of-city event like this, which is being proposed, would interact with our city's local place strategy.
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. So it would be, in addition to our existing suite of events that are based around a a place-led approach to offer event opportunities and event activities within under that place-led strategy and within our local community. So such an event would be in addition to those.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more. Just thinking on the hop, because we don't get to discuss this before now. Would this be more appropriate to go to the FACE committee before making a solid decision?
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. If the city was to take the lead role in organising this event, then that would be something we would need to take to the FACE committee, because we currently structure our resources around delivering the existing suite of events that we've got. So an additional event which would demand additional resources would need to go to the FACE committee for consideration if the city was delivering the event in its entirety.
Thank you, Mr Clem. I have a question. It's correct that I think the FACE committee have already booked the next 12 months events, and they do that in advance when they meet. They book 12 months in advance. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, that is correct. Our suite of events for this upcoming season has already been decided for this financial year, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Rowe.
Just one more, Mayor. I'm sorry if I missed it in the report. I was away last week. I suppose this was only released to us very recently. Subject to the investigation being completed, is there another touch point with Council? As in, would Council be required to endorse this event, or is the completion of the investigation sufficient to proceed with an event without Council endorsement?
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the investigation would need to come back to Council in some format to consider.
Thank you, Mr Clem. Councillor Miles.
My question was along similar lines to Councillor Rowe. I do like the idea of having an open day for voluntary groups to show what they can do and try and get some further volunteers to help on their respective community groups. But whilst the recommendation is asking administration to investigate some options, to support this sort of led event, should the mover like to add in there that it then gets presented back to a forum after they've had their investigation, then obviously council can have further discussions in the forum setting.
Would you be happy with that, Councillor Huntley?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that would be fine. Yep.
Okay, so we put in item 2 that the results of the investigation be brought to forum. And we'll just put, yeah, and report back to council members at a forum. Yeah. Okay, are you happy with that change to the recommendation, Councillor Coetzee? Okay, so in the last line, and report back to council members at a forum. I can't see up the top there. That's good. So you're happy with that, Jackie, Councillor Huntley and Councillor Coetzee? Do I have any further questions on this item? Councillor Herridge.
Do we need to specify a timeline?
Clem, could you comment? Mr. Clem, could you please comment on a timeline? Sorry, I've got this going in my ear.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think sometime in early 2024 would be realistic. If there was an intent then to move forward, it's something that would allow us a budget process to make some decisions around funding of an event. So perhaps by February.
Mr. Singh, would you like to comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think February will be a bit of a stretch given that there is going to be Christmas break holiday period coming in there. So to get proper investigation could be March or April, I think.
Councillor Civic.
Could I suggest 6 months? Would that give us enough time? It'd probably take us to about March, April anyway of next year.
Yeah, we need it for the budget.
Yeah, and for the budget as well, yes.
So March is fine.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to accept March, but certainly not anything after that. Otherwise, it will get too tight to get it organised for the following year.
So it goes at forum by March 2024. By the end of March 2024. Okay. Councillor Coetzee, are you happy with that change? Do I have any other questions about this item? Okay, I go. Do I have any speakers against this item? If I have no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We now go to item MN02 1023, motion to revoke a council resolution MN01 823. I have a mover, Councillor Berry. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Coetzee. Councillor Berry, would
Sorry,
you...
Councillor, I need to make a declaration?
Yep.
With regard to item MN02 1023, I disclose that I helped through the Wanneroo Golf Course to support the JM Memorial. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Coetzee. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Berry? Councillor Coetzee. Councillor Berry, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do apologise, everyone. I've got nothing wrong with me according to the doctors, but my voice isn't brilliant. We've just heard the previous motion was brought without discussion and debate, as was this item about hospices, hence this motion. I'd like to say none of the signatories to the revocation motion are opposed to advocating for hospice care and aligning this advocacy to the advocacy for a hospital in Yanchep. The August report was brought to Council for a decision with limited facts and was misleading. It asked Council to approve a spend of $10,000 on a business case report for community-led services within Wanneroo. The state government is aware of the gap and has already undertaken the research and produced a report, WA End of Life and Palliative Care Strategy 2018 to 2028, which identified 6 priorities as included in the revocation motion detail. The state government made an announcement in July that it has committed to the first hospice in the Perth metro area, and it would be a dedicated children's hospice. The 2 examples provided were for regional facilities, limited in the factual information available, and did not include the actual breakdown of services offered or the full costs or how the services actually funded. I feel the report was misleading. Council was led to believe that the examples were both community hospices that did not provide private services. Council was led to believe that both services relied on community donations, and in actual fact, one became a private hospital to enable it to secure funds from the Department of Veteran Affairs and in addition receive significant funding from government grants. The revocation motion provides 14 examples of hospice or palliative care available across the Perth metro area. Joondalup Hospital, as acknowledged, is a fairly new 10-bed facility that is free of charge, available to all. If it is not believed a report is needed to be paid for, as palliative care and hospice care have options locally, although not cited physically in the city of Wanneroo. I'll move to the Local Government Act 1995, which states the role of the Mayor: preside at council meetings, carry out civic and ceremonial duties, speak on behalf of local government, liaise with the CEO on local government affairs, provide leadership guidance to community. The role of the Mayor or President also includes the role of a councillor. A Mayor or President has no authority to make decisions as an individual other than to authorise expenditure in an emergency. Establishing we are therefore equal under the Act, no other councillor, to the best of my knowledge, has been afforded the luxury of having 3 staff for a whole day to assist them with their motions on notice. Before this motion on notice was even presented to us, costs had already been incurred, as the Mayor and 3 staff visited Busselton with a representative for LJM Memorial Hospice, as advised in the report to Council presented to us on the 15th of August 2023. I have made reference to 3 meetings that occurred as part of a federal campaign in 2022. The details of the meetings are in the motion, but clearly demonstrate that healthcare was part of a federal campaign with an awareness that healthcare services and healthcare associated services are not a matter for local government to fund. The costs for healthcare and associated healthcare services in WA sit under a higher level of government than local government, being state and federal government. The purpose of this revocation motion is therefore to stop unnecessary spending on a business case for hospice care, but to bring this topic back to forum to look at all the future healthcare needs in Yanchep.
Councillor Berry, you've been speaking for 3 minutes. Do you want an extension of time?
Yes, please. I've got 1 sentence.
Okay.
Okay. And to bring it back to forum to look at all the future healthcare needs in Yanchep and to plan the proposed Yanchep hospital advocacy with all complementary healthcare needs for the Yanchep area, including hospice care. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Coetzee, would you like to speak to the rescindment motion? Thank you.
Thank you. In light of personal experience, I wholeheartedly endorse palliative care. We need it. Palliative care offers a holistic approach addressing physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. It helps patients and their families navigate complex decisions, providing guidance and reassurance by prioritising the well-being of both patients and loved ones. Palliative care offers a ray of hope and comfort during the darkest times. I can go on about palliative care, but I think we all around this table know exactly what palliative care is. I'm not against engaging a consultant to develop a business case to support the city to advocate for community-led hospice services within the city of Wanneroo. But this matter was not brought up in our previous forums or spoken to us. The city lacks of expertise, knowledge or environment to develop these services. State and federal governments are fully responsible for healthcare needs across all generations within the city. But yes, the city can play a role in advocating for services for the community that are not currently available. And I think it is needed. Therefore, I believe it is crucial to bring it to a forum for councillors to discuss, seek community consultation, and then, yes, engage a consultant to develop a business case if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coetzee. Do we have any questions about this item? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 questions, and with your indulgence, I'll ask them separately. The first is there generally a difference between a broad strategic document and a business case, just because the mover has introduced the state government's strategy as a key piece of information that was not presented to us last time? So could administration comment on any material or potential differences between a business case and a broad strategic document?
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. Yes, typically a strategy document or strategic document would provide guidance on a broad matter, whereas a business case will examine the pros and cons of a particular proposal in more specific detail.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor, and I do thank the mover for being as comprehensive as she was in her reasons, because I did print out the entire state government strategy and read it thoroughly, because it was important evidence in weighing up my decision for tonight. Is the administration or the mover aware of how many references to the term hospice are included in the WA end of life and palliative care strategy, as this 5-year-old document now is identified by the mover as one of the 2 most important factors to justify revocation? So as to how many references to the term hospice are included in the document, does anyone know?
Councillor Berry.
I don't know, sorry.
Mr Clem.
Through you, Mayor, no, I'm not aware of how many references there are.
Are you aware, Councillor Rowe?
I am. 6 in a document of 40 pages. And then, Mayor, with your indulgence, the final question, is either the mover or the administration aware of how many references to either Wanneroo as an LGA or locality there are, or the North Metro region as a region there are in the document?
Councillor Berry.
No, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware exactly.
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm not aware either.
Councillor Rowe, are you aware?
Yes, there are 0 references to Wanneroo, and there is 1 reference to the North Metropolitan Region in the context of Joondalup. And for the benefit of councillors, I also read the first implementation plan 2020-2022, and there are also no references to that, and that was an implementation plan, not a strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Are there any speakers against this item? Are you asking a question or speaking against? Yes, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring up clarification about the funding if this goes through, because I remember at the last meeting when this was discussed, there was funding options discussed about it coming out of councillor training and things like that, and at some point I thought that was going to be part of it, or whether it's going to be part of the budget process. Can that be clarified, please? Because I think that is an important factor to consider here.
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. In regards to the budget, I'm I'm not sure how to answer that question. Perhaps Mr Singh might be able to.
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. My recollection is the actual motion identified there is a funding available in 23-24 budget to undertake this consulting work.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is about, because there's an actual question of asking that this comes to forum, how hard would that be to either add into the recommendation for this motion, or can we not go back to forum at all if this
Councillor
doesn't
Huntley,
go
this is a rescindment motion and we speak only to the rescindment motion, and we cannot change the motion on notice because that's been passed by council. We can only speak to the rescindment motion.
Okay, well, the motion is to bring this back to forum, I do believe.
No, the motion is to revoke the original motion on notice. It's a rescindment motion. No, the item on revocation motion, Part 6, Standing Orders, Local Law 2021, to the CEO, Acting CEO, City of Wanneroo, I, Councillor Helen Berry, hereby give notice that at the ordinary council meeting currently scheduled for the 12th of September 2023, or at a special council meeting to be called and date announced by the CEO, shall move that the decision in respect of agenda item MN01823 made at the council meeting of the City of Wanneroo on the 15th of August 2023 be revoked. And we are speaking to the revocation, not to anything else. Councillor Herridge, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Can you just clarify me exactly what it means when you revoke the decision and what the process is that happens at the end?
Vicky, Ms Cope, could you speak to it?
If the decision is revoked, then nothing further will happen on this matter. And anything very similar to this cannot be brought forward for another 3 months.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Herridge.
Sorry, that was an intended question to actually clarify what was happening at the end of the table. I'm not sure they actually heard the answer though.
Councillor Huntley, please sit down again, and because we all need to be included into the discussion. Councillor Huntley and Councillor Berry, did you hear the response from Ms Cope when she said about the revocation motion?
Yes. Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Nguyen.
Just a question on the declaration of interest. I note that on page 345, which has a flyer of some sort of a meeting involving the Honourable Greg Hunt and our mayor on that, and given her the background, that would the mayor be required to disclose an interest given the previous involvement in this particular area?
That actually meeting is not related to tonight's revocation motion, and it was over 12 months ago, and it was prior to this motion on notice even being written. So there is no conflict of interest in this. It was just a meeting that I hosted with the Federal Minister. Thank you. And that was prior to me being Mayor. Thank you.
Is just to follow up on that question, with a declaration of interest, is that expiry time in terms of, I think there were reference to 12 months, when that needs to be...
Ms Cope, would you like to respond to that, please?
In relation of declarations of interest, particularly if it's, impartiality interest, it is a decision for the councillor to make in relation to their dealings in the matter.
And is there a 12-month time limit or no?
Ms Cope?
There's no time limit in the Act.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just have a question. In the information supplied in this one about the 3 meetings, there was reference to requests for data as to why the hospice care was needed by the Minister to yourself and to the group as well. I was just wondering, are there any of statistics or data that may have been procured that can be shared regarding the specific desire for hospice care? Because I think the distinction, what I was going for when it was discussed, was that we're wanting a place outside of the home but not in a hospital. So is there any data about the need or desire for that type of hospice care?
That's actually why we're doing the business case, but would Mr Clem like to respond to that, please?
This comment is not relevant to rescission motion.
Yeah, and actually that's not relevant to the rescission motion, which is absolutely correct. So that was discussed previously. Thank you. Any questions? Any speakers against? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. No. And the revocation motion is lost. 5 supporting, 6 against. The 5 supporting it were Councillor Nguyen, Councillor Huntley, Councillor Berry, Councillor Coetzee and Councillor Miles. Those against were myself, Councillor Herridge, Councillor Treby, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Civic and Councillor Smith. So the revocation motion has been lost. Okay, we go to urgent business, which we have none. We go to item 11, which is a confidential report. Confidential reports are to be discussed behind closed doors and all recording must be ceased and the members of the public exit the chambers and chamber doors must be closed. Do I have a mover and seconder to close the doors? Moved, Councillor Fittins, seconded, Deputy Mayor Treby. Councillors, could you please cast your vote? Okay, so that was passed 10 for and 1 against. Councillor Vin Nguyen was against closing the doors. Okay, for CRO 11023, the acquisition of land from lot 5166 Prindiville Drive, Wangara, as road reserve, it was moved by Councillor Civic, seconded by Deputy Mayor Treby. And the recommendation is that Council 1 approves the acquisition of a portion of lot 5166 Prindiville Drive, Wangara, as identified in the administration report from Site Accommodation Proprietary Limited, ACN number 124458037, at the agreed amount, including ancillary costs, for dedication as road reserve, and 2, authorises A, the Chief Executive Officer or nominee of the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate terms, execute all documentation and comply with all applicable legislation in relation to item 1 above, and B, the Chief Executive Officer to execute the contract of sale and any other associated documentation between the City and Site Accommodation Proprietary Limited, ACN number 124458037, to effect item 1 above, and 3, approves by absolute majority the amendment of the 2023-24 operational budget for the proposed expenditure described in the administration report, acquisition price plus ancillary costs, to be funded from East Wanneroo TPS Cell 8 funds. Item 12, the date of the next meeting. The next council members briefing session has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 14th of November to be held at Council Chambers, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. And item 13, closure. I now declare the meeting closed at 8:13 p.m. Thank you, councillors.